The Corn Thicket Podcast with Kyle and Howie, presented by Realtree.
You good?
Yeah, I think we're fine. Yeah, we're good. I can hear you. That's all that matters.
Okay. Hey, welcome back to the
Back.
Corn Thicket Podcast. It's been a while.
We say that every goddamn time. I'm sick of saying
Yeah.
it. It
Well,
hasn't been
it
that long.
has.
There's a lot of
It's been
people that
since
wait a lot longer between ones. We're busy people, man.
we
Heck,
are very busy.
I built and coached and stopped an entire team, Nighthawks, in the time since we've last chatted. But
yeah, we got deer season coming up soon. We got kids acting like assholes. We got house projects. I got house projects that I need to fix before deer season starts. What you got going on?
like literally the same exact list. Yeah, so we can dive right into it. Kid stuff. Let's do
Okay, yeah.
parenting
I was gonna
stuff right
say,
away.
can we start with parenting? Because
Yeah.
my child, I've wanted to punt her out the window a couple times this week. Even last night, she
Like
woke up.
Anchorman when he kicks a dog up off the
Yeah,
bridge.
Baxter. But yeah, so last night, dead sleep, 2 a.m. She comes running in our room, crying, and we're like, "What do you want?" And she just won't say what she wants, and starts rolling around on the floor, kicking and screaming. And I'm not talking like just kicking and screaming, like I'm talking like, "Ah!" Like screaming,
Yeah,
screaming. Like
like
I think the neighbors
demon
probably
voice.
heard her. Yeah, it's
Right.
like a demon voice. It comes from like down here, like in her voice box, and it sounds like she's like possessed or something. It's freaking annoying as shit, and it drives me up the wall.
Right.
But she did it last night from 2 a.m. till like 3, and it's
So you guys
weird
went
because
out yesterday, right? I think I saw you guys went out to like a
yeah,
dance thing.
they have like a little thing here on Thursday nights where they shut down Main Street, and then they like wheel out a stage and stuff, and then
Oh,
they
nice.
serve beer outside. There
Yeah.
was two bands last night, so we stayed for the first one, and then the second one was Dope Ass Sneakers, and they have like a live DJ that does all the mixing and stuff, and then
Yeah.
they sing like a bunch of '90s throwback hip hop and pop. Is really cool.
Nice.
And the first song they played was Jump Around last night, and she heard it and she started jumping around.
Right.
And yes, it was late. Like we didn't get home until like 9, which her bedtime is 8:30. 8:30 is when she usually falls asleep.
Right.
So it was a late night. She didn't actually fall asleep until maybe 10, which was, that's
Yeah.
really late for her. But I figured she was
All
just
the
going to
more reason to
crash.
sleep straight through.
Yeah, I thought she was just gonna crash, and I was crash. I had 2 or 3 beers, and I came home and made myself a bourbon,
Right.
so I was good.
Right.
And then, yeah, 2 a.m. she comes running in our room, whining and crying, and then screaming, and it's just like I don't. We're trying to teach her use your nice words, and you get what you want. Say please, say thank you, say I need this,
Right.
please, or can I have this, please? And she just looks at my wife, and she's just like, wipe my boo boo. That's what she said. She said, wipe my
Yeah.
boo boo. And Emily's like, that ain't, we're
Right.
not doing that. And then
Right.
she screams. And then, yeah, I'm a freaking mess. And then last night, she got so bad, she went in the bathroom and started like biting the counter. Like she was freaking out so bad, she was biting the countertop. It's like, I don't
Have
know.
you thought about getting her a chew toy?
Yeah, she has like what we call a little chewy, and it's like a little egg. It's like a little soft
Yeah.
egg. It's actually like a teething thing.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
has that, and she has an ice pack teether thing well, I
Yeah.
mean, she's got all her teeth. She's
Yeah.
almost
She's not
3.
teething. She just yeah.
Yeah, she just needs it.
So she
But
started biting the countertop.
yeah, she started biting the countertop. She'll take her finger and put it in her mouth and bite it, or her arm and bite her own arm. And it's just like I don't even know like how to stop it or what to do or
And this is always at night, or I know you've had trouble getting her down
no.
lately.
Well, I mean, it's not really. We don't really have a um trouble getting her down. It's just she goes to sleep. She just stalls when she goes to like. So we
Mm,
do like what we call. Here's our routine. We do snuggle movie. It's
mm,
where we like lay on the couch and watch a movie, like usually like Frozen or something, and we give her like 2 songs, and then it's like, okay, these 2 songs are over. Let's go brush your teeth, go potty, and then we lay in bed with her. or like so one of us sits on the rocking chair while she lays in her crib, or not crib, her bed now, but
Yeah. Yeah.
and then we just lay there until she falls asleep and she fidgets. She has like a little Barbie that she fidgets with and like her little chew toy thing and that she like chews on. She doesn't really chew on it a whole lot, but she'll like put it in her mouth and like then she just plays with her hands and stuff. And eventually she'll just fall asleep. So that's kind of our routine. But here lately, we go to bed and she does the thing and then she'll be like laying there and she'll be like, I need a drink of milk. And then it's like, okay, so we get her a drink of milk. We'll make her say, please, can I
Yeah.
have a
Right.
drink of milk, please? Use your nice words and you get what you want. So then, we give her a drink of milk and then she's like, lays back down, goes, I need to go potty. So then, we go potty and I need a snack. And finally, eventually it's like, okay, let's lay down and go the fuck to sleep. But so then that's the thing. But then, yeah, she's 2 nights. Well, what is today? Today's Friday. Thursday night was good. Wednesday night she had a fit at 2 a.m. to 4, 2 to 4. She just comes running in our room, and when she comes, she doesn't like immediately tell us what she wants. She just comes in and then throws a fit just immediately, and we're like, "What do you want?" And she goes, "Eh." What do you want? Eh. And then she'll pick up something and throw it, and then she'll look at us and go, "Wah!" Like the little devil scream, and then we're just sitting there like we just watch her, like no reaction, just watch her, and then she just sits there and bites herself and throws things, and
So it
yeah,
didn't just start out right at that level, right? I mean, it was like this has been escalating. She didn't bite herself like 3 months ago, 6 months
no,
ago.
no, this is kind of a new thing, and she started biting herself. She she used to have night terrors like an hour after she went to bed. She would,
Yeah, I
and
remember that.
it was usually right at an hour. She would have a night terror, and and you could tell she was still sleeping, but
Mhm.
she wasn't awake. And then when she would come to and wake up, she would
Right.
be like perfectly fine, 100%, go back to sleep and like calm down. But this is like you can tell she's awake and she's just being an asshole for no reason.
So does the screaming and stuff start in her room, or does she wait till she gets in your room before she does it?
Oh, she waits until she gets in our room. Like she comes in
Yeah.
our room and then waits until we wake up and then like we're looking at her like, what do you want? And then she'll go, "Meh,"
Yeah.
just look at us. I look like a freaking pterodactyl on the video when I do that. But
Yeah, the sound doesn't even come through if you're screeching, but yeah, it must clip it out if you're doing it. But I'm
yeah,
assuming it's a pretty good one. But yeah, man. I mean, couple things. I mean, and you probably already do this, but like when you say, use your nice words and you get what you want. Obviously, you got to be careful with that, right? Because there's going to be times where she uses her nice words. She's like, I want to go outside at 10 o'clock at night. And
oh
then,
yeah,
please, she says, please. And you're like, no, I use my nice words. Well,
yeah,
it's still too
that
freaking
makes
bad,
sense.
right? You use your nice words and you might get, and we'll talk about it, I guess, whatever. But, yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like she's just continuing to escalate. Oh, I'm getting an echo now out of nowhere.
Sorry, that might have been me. I was hearing popping, so I was kind of messing with things.
Check,
All
check,
right,
check.
try that
Yeah, I'm all
again.
right now.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
good.
That was me.
No, you're all right. Don't mess with the audio, dude. It's like a
Yeah, I know.
house of cards
Well,
in this.
I'm hearing popping in my headphones when you talk, and I don't know. I was trying to get that. Okay.
Oh.
Cut.
Um, I don't know. It feels like it's that continual escalation that we've kind of talked about, right? Like when you guys were first, when she used to have her bath time, and you get in, and then it was like she didn't want to get in until she got a toy, and then it was more toys, and then it was this, and then it was that, right? Um, it's more of that. It sounds to me like more of that escalation. Now, the thing in the middle of the night, that might be a whole different thing, but um, even when you say like when she lies down in bed and she says, I want milk, I want a snack, I want this, like that list could get 15 long, right? That could get
Mhm.
20 long. Same thing as a bath time, right? It's just gonna,
Mhm.
and it's just a delay tactic and it's a power play and all that kind of thing. So, I mean, on that front, my only recommendation is get her away from screens as early as you can. Um, Meaning like at least an hour before she tries to go to bed, because there's so much research on what those blue screens do to you, like
Yeah.
TVs and everything. And I know we all do it, dude. I watch TV till I fall asleep a lot, but then again, I sleep like shit. So maybe that's a lot
Same.
to do with it, you know. Um, and it's funny because the only thing aside from like drugging myself with some kind of sleeping pill or something that I've found I can do is if I read, and I like reading. But if I lay down and read, and I'm like, okay, I want to finish like a couple chapters, I get like I'll get like 3 pages in, and I'm like, and it's a good book.
Yeah.
It's one I want to, but I'm just so tired, that my body is actually like, okay, you're not watching this thing on TV, you're not watching an event, like you're just reading these things, and I doze. And now, if I wake up, I know this is off topic, but if I wake up in the middle of the night, I actually throw my headphone things on, like I have those air shock things that like wrap around your head and sit on front of your ears, and I'll turn on an audiobook, and I fall like right back to sleep just from, and it's a book I want to listen to, and thankfully my phone for some reason it quits playing it after a while. Like it's like if I don't, there's something in those headphones for some reason when you don't move for so long they just shut
Oh
off,
yeah.
which is wild too. Like it's monitoring if I'm alive, but anyway, like that, like we started talking about the other day, to me, it's just when, like anything else in life, there's going to be a pendulum, right? The pendulum gets pulled to a certain height. The only way you can't like pull it back down to zero. You almost have to pull it back the other way to an equal distance before it's going to settle somewhere in the middle where you want it to be. So what I would predict is if this is going to turn in a certain way, you're going to have to be way more strict than you want to be for the rest of your life. You just have to say, we're going to have 3 or 4 weeks of just,
Yeah.
it's bedtime. When we go into bed, this is what happens. You're old enough, we don't have to sit with you, whatever, however you want to do it. But there is no milk after bedtime. There is no this after bedtime until she starts to understand that you're in charge.
Yeah.
Because she's doing what Hunter did with us. And I'll tell you, this isn't, I know it's frustrating, but with Hunter, we got to a point where, I mean, she's a strong, independent girl, right? And but she was testing us. When she was 2.5, 3, everybody says the terrible twos. I was like, three is more challenging. I don't care what
S-
anybody says.
Not
When
to
she
not to
turned,
interrupt you here, but
yeah,
that's exactly what my brother said. The exact same thing this week because I told him at work because I work with my brother, and I told him I said, the terrible twos weren't that bad,
yeah,
and she's a month from turning 3, and we're like already seeing the signs, and he's like, oh
yeah,
yeah, 3 was way worse.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
also the daycare lady told us the same thing.
yeah,
Emily dropped her off the other day and said, we're starting to see the number 3 come out in her, and she goes, "Oh yeah, good luck with that."
yeah, yeah.
But go
But
ahead. Sorry,
but
I didn't
like
mean to cut
no,
you
no,
off.
no, you're good. And by the way, since we didn't point it out, we both have, by complete coincidence, we have our camo care shirts on today, sporting it for Kirk
Oh yeah,
Byerly there.
yeah. Look at that.
If you haven't heard our podcast with him, it's in the stack there. You can go back and talk with Kurt.
Two
It's a good
episodes ago, 3.
conversation. Something like that.
Been a
I
while.
don't know. Yeah. So what we had to do with Hunter was we had to go to zero tolerance. We had to say, and I think we've had some of these conversations before where we quit saying okay. That's where I learned to quit saying okay. And I would say, after the show's done, you need to go clean your room. Do you understand me? And she'd say yes. I'd say okay. And then that show would end, and the next show would come on, and I'd come in, and she's still sitting there. She hadn't started cleaning her room. She hadn't shut the TV off like we had agreed to, and she got spanked. I mean, there was no discussion. We gave the rules. You knew the rules. I would remind her of it, and she'd get spanked. And I wouldn't beat her senseless, but it was
Yeah.
and like I said, there's a book that I gave you when she was born, and you'll read it someday.
I'm one chapter in. I
All
started it
right.
the other day.
Awesome. Awesome. But it's called She Calls Me Daddy for anybody who's looking for one. I'm not a big self help book kind of guy. I love books, but I don't typically go down that path. But that's the only book I read. Like I read it about every 18 months still. I used to read it once a year. It's a good one for reminders as a dad, especially a dad of daughters. But it honestly applies to everything. But we had to swing that pendulum back so far to where it was zero tolerance. There was no conversation. There's no, if I say it, even if it's wrong, that's what's going to happen, right? Like even if I end up going down the road to feeling like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have had that happen or whatever it was, is like, no,
Yeah.
that's what I said needs to happen, so we're going to do it. The hardest part, and this was, my goodness, she was probably 4 or 5 at this point. the hardest things were like we'd be at a store and I'd tell her, if you do that again, you're going to get spanked when you get home. We might have had this conversation already on Thicket. I'm not sure,
I
but,
think so, but
um, we get back hours later after she had done that thing again and she's in a great mood and she's singing in the car. She still gets spanked when she gets home. That way, next time when we're out and I say that, she knows I'm going to follow through. And
yeah,
with Brock now, we never had to lay a hand on a kid, which is odd to me. I thought my boy would be much more trouble than my daughter. And Hunter wasn't trouble. He was just a different cat. He just every kid's going to be different,
yeah,
and Callie's going to be different than Hunter. Um, and it's that balance where, especially your first kid, I believe, because we were a little bit the same way, and I think maybe now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe that was a difference between the first and second was our first kid was, I mean, we and everybody else around spoiled the hell out of that kid. I mean,
yeah,
you just want her to have this glorious life, and you want everything to be perfect, and well, that's not number one. It's not the way to prepare them for real life because we all know that's not how the real world works. And if you don't have, you know, coping mechanisms from having things not go your way, you're gonna not be good at life later. Um, but maybe I think with Brock, now that I think about it, because I would actually get the opposite with Brock. I get people saying like, hey, he's only two, he's only 3 years old. Like, you don't need to have those expectations of him. I'm like, no, damn it, he needs to get a job. No, not quite that much. But yeah, so I think now the nighttime stuff. So let's tackle the other stuff first. So I know we'd already talked about the bath time stuff and all that. I just really feel like you're going to be best off if you're able to just set the boundaries, make the boundaries clear, stick to those boundaries 100% of the time, and make her remember that she's a child, or learn for the first time, however it is, that she's a child. She's not in charge. You are in charge. What you say goes. When you say jump, the only question she should have is how high. It shouldn't be, can I do that in 5 minutes? I don't want to do that
yeah,
right now. I don't give a shit. Now, the further you can pull that pendulum back the other way, the quicker you can get back to where you can start having conversations. Um, and every parent group that I know of, that are still together and raising kids together, have the one parent who is the one the children know they can negotiate with. I don't know which one of you that'll end up being, but there's
I'm
always one
assuming
they
it's
can.
mommy because she never wants to see me or do anything with me whenever she's throwing a fit.
Okay.
And she'll actually, like, even this morning, she wasn't really throwing a fit, but like it was time to get dressed.
Yeah.
And Emily was doing her makeup and stuff, and I was like, okay, come on, let's go get dressed. And she's like whining, and Emily had already tried to get her dressed this morning. So
Right.
they went in her room, tried to get dressed, and Emily picked out her outfit for the day and was like she's like, it's like, no, I don't want that one. I want this one. And she's like, no, that's a church dress. We don't wear that to daycare.
Right.
You can't
Right.
wear that. Then she started kind of throwing a fit, like, no, I want to wear it. So then Emily's like, fine, I'm not getting you dressed. Daddy's going to do it. So Emily went in the room and started putting her makeup and stuff on. And I was like, okay, let's go get dressed. And she's like, no, mommy, like crying. And it's like,
I knew that dress was out of
fine.
place, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then like, even so then finally Emily's like got done. She's like, well, now you're gonna wait till I'm done with my makeup. And so she got
Right.
done, and then
Good.
then they went into the room and started getting her dressed. And I even just went in there and like looked at her, and she like crawled to the closet to where she couldn't see me. So
Well, you mentioned the other day that she had thrown a fit right before Emily left. You were at work, and she threw a fit right before Emily left, and like took her clothes off, right? And then Emily was like, just basically told her, "I'll take you without shoes. I'll take
oh
you
that
whatever."
no, so that was Tuesday morning, I think Tuesday or Monday morning. I was at
Yeah.
work already, and they were getting ready to go to daycare, and Emily said, having a great morning. Got her dressed, and she was playing, and while Emily was doing her makeup and getting ready for work. And then right when they were getting ready to walk out the door, she took off all her dress and says, no, I want a different dress. And then
Right.
Emily's like, no, you're wearing that one,
Right.
and then she started throwing her fit, throwing herself on the ground and all that, screaming and all that bullshit again. And Emily's like, fine, we're not getting dressed at all then. And she snatched her up and grabbed her dress and took out the door with her, she had shorts on and shoes, I think, is all she had on. Didn't have a
Right.
shirt on.
Right.
Strapped her in the car seat and then took off for daycare and got halfway down the road and Callie like looked at her. She goes, "I'll listen now."
Right. That's it. That was wonderfully played. That was
Yeah,
wonderfully played. And that's got to be your life for the next couple months, maybe, right?
and that's
Until she
and
gets it.
that's
And
a
then there's gonna be times where you got to remind her of that too, right? I mean, it's not like it happens and then everything's roses again. She's gonna keep trying to challenge you,
yeah,
right?
and that's the way it's been going too. She knows what she needs to do.
Yep.
Like she
They're smarter than we give them credit for
oh
at
yeah,
that
she
age. For
it
sure.
it was
And
the
that's
other
what's up.
day. She wanted us to sit in the rocking chair at bedtime, and Emily
Yeah.
was like, Emily's like, use your nice words and ask me. She goes, rocking chair, and then just pointed over there. And Emily's like, I'm not going to sit unless I'm not letting you boss me around. She's like, you
Right.
asked nicely. She started throwing a fit again, and then finally, like after 20 minutes of her screaming and throwing a fit and rolling around on the ground and throwing herself around, she goes, "Can you sit in the rocking chair, please?" And it's
Right.
like, that's
Right.
all you needed to do. And we didn't even
Yeah.
tell her like we told her
Right.
that one time before the whole thing started. Ask nicely, and
Right.
we'll do it.
Right.
Ask nicely, do what
Right.
you're told, and we'll do
Yeah.
it. And then she just throws a fit and wants us to do it. And then finally, she'll come
Now,
through.
when
She's like,
she was throwing that fit, were you guys still in a room, or did you disengage and go do your own thing?
"Oh, we were." We put her in her room, which she just crawls out and looks at us, anyways. But yeah, we were kind of just doing our own thing. And Emily was downstairs sitting in the chair, and
And
I was standing outside her room. And yeah, finally, she just like,
she's also getting to that age, though. She's also at that age where not things necessarily, even getting to that age in the morning or the afternoon, you could use like that rocking chair time, like the fact that you're sitting there with her when she goes to sleep, to say like, if you are disrespectful, if you throw a fit today, then when you go to bed tonight, we're not going to be sitting in the rocking chair with you. Like you can start to tie stuff earlier in the day to things later, so
yeah,
she's understanding longer term consequences because they need to start learning that at some point, right? So,
yeah,
um, and again, I think she understands. She knows what a fit is, right? I mean, if
oh
you
yeah,
refer to her like,
yeah, because we talked like, did you have a fit at daycare today? And she was like, yeah.
yeah,
So and
yeah,
we have kind of touched on that. Like if you are a good girl today, or you
yeah,
go like we were potty training or poop. Like she's been having
yeah,
trouble poop
yeah,
on the potty, but that was a whole thing. It's like
right,
if you poop on the potty at daycare today, we'll go to the park. And then
right,
like she would poop on the potty, and we show up there. She goes, "I poop on the potty. We go to the park
right,
now." And we're like, "Yeah, let's go to the
right.
park."
So she gets it. Yep,
Yeah. So
yep.
she
Those kinds of
understands
things is
the
yeah,
long term.
yeah. Yeah, and
So
the
maybe
fact
we
that she's at that point is just another reinforcement of how smart they really are. And then when you take that intelligence that they have and then apply it to like the fits and stuff, you're like, okay, well, there's a reason behind this. There's a goal behind this, right? It's not just a fit because she's a baby and
yeah.
she's obviously not a baby, but um, you gotta continue to apply that level of intelligence to what they're doing and understand there's a method, there's a reason why she's doing it. She's trying to get something out of it. And I mean, for both of our kids, we had to. You start coming out of it and you get in a rhythm, and then at some point, whether they know it or not, they start challenging a little bit more or whatever it is, and then every now and again they do something, and you gotta snap it back, and it's say, hey, remember, this is how this works. This is our house. We're in charge of you. We're responsible for raising a child that goes out in the world and isn't a complete asshole, and this is how we do it. And that's the main thing is, I know damn well you don't want to raise a kid who goes out and is entitled. That's going to
Yeah.
go out and say, you owe me this. I want this. I want that. Go to a restaurant. And I want that window seat. Well, there's somebody in the middle of their dinner over there. Well, I don't care. Like, I mean, we're not far from a world. There's already people in this world that do that. And I know
Oh,
you're
I'm
not going to
sure.
raise one like that.
No.
So, um, yeah, the thing is, that's a lot of people don't, and I know you guys get it, but a lot of people, when their kids act up like yours, and you're reaching out to have conversations to say, what has worked for other people, and you're asking the right questions, to figure things out. There's a lot of people, man, who are just like, Oh, they're just two. Oh, they're just
Yeah,
three. They'll grow out of it. The fuck they will. They will not grow out of that. They will get worse. I
yeah,
guarantee you they will get worse. And it'll be in different ways. They might not throw themselves on the floor, but they are going to be worse. And it's going to be terrible, frankly.
yeah.
It's just, so yeah, like I said, I know you'll figure it out and everything will work out for you guys. But it's a tough road right here. It's especially she's an only child. Um, there's challenges with having a second one as well that we obviously didn't have to face as much because our kids were so far apart. But I know a lot of folks who have they get, and by no means anyone listening, I'm not saying that they're expecting another child. That's not what I'm saying here. But but with her being an only child, now I want to think more about that night terror stuff though. It's just, did she used to come into your bed and sleep in your bed
No,
and
whenever it
do
was like a
everything?
legit night terror, she would just wake up and she wouldn't. She would. You could tell she was sleeping. She would just wake
Yeah,
up and fuss, and she would be like,
yeah,
"We figured it out that you couldn't talk to her, and you couldn't talk to her. You couldn't like try to wake her up. Obviously, you would just have to like try to cover her back up and like lay her back down gently and like
yeah,
let her know you're not there. Because it's like if you started talking to her, it would almost be like she was still in a
yeah.
deep sleep that
Right,
she could tell you were there and she couldn't get to you, and that made her even more frustrated,
right,
if
right,
that
right.
makes sense.
Yeah,
So
but this
that's
one,
kind of.
she's awake when she's walking
Oh
in.
yeah, yeah, she's 100% awake and she just wants to be a jerk for some stupid reason. But then, yeah, I don't know. And then finally she
Well, that
just,
comes into you came into our room and yelled last night, so you go to bed tonight by yourself.
yeah,
Things like
could,
that. I mean, that's she can make those connections. I mean, it's just now it just comes down to actions have repercussions and being consistent on it, and ride it out because just like an addict or anybody else, right? They're gonna when things don't go their way, they're not gonna be like, oh, okay, it's gonna get worse, then it's gonna
yeah,
get better, and when it gets worse, that's when you just have to be like at your best, man, and it's gonna suck. I'm telling you, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be worse than when they were teething, and you don't
mhm,
understand why they're crying and all that stuff. It's because they're at that age now where and it's still your baby girl, and I totally get that. But
yeah,
um, it's for your sanity too. I mean, you got a responsibility to yourself and Emily, right? To be able to have a sane household, and the only
yeah,
way you can get there is to let that kid know, like, hey, the way you act is going to have repercussions, um, and some of those will be longer term. If she goes a whole day without a fit and doesn't come into your house, it doesn't come into your room the night before. There's nothing wrong with walking in saying, "Okay, it's time to go to bed," getting her to bed and letting her know there's no more snacks. There's any, you want to get a drink or whatever. Let's do it before we lie down. Once we lie down, we're done. That's it. You're staying down. And by the way, since you didn't have a fit last night, you didn't come into our room and you didn't have a fit all day today, I'll sit here and read a book with you or something.
yeah.
Otherwise, there's your room. Get. And, you know, eventually she'll come around, especially if she's
Oh,
awake, knowing she's doing it.
yeah.
So,
I don't hate that idea. It's just I don't know how we would enforce it because, I mean, I love the idea, but she would just get up and run and start screaming right in front of us. So I
well, then
don't.
she doesn't get you the next day, right?
Yeah,
And then when she doesn't, and then you find something else she likes. Like, well, if that doesn't do it, okay, if you attack us in the middle of the night, if you come in and do this thing, um, uh, you don't get your favorite doll the next day, and that's going to cause another fit, and that's okay too, because then that fit gets a repercussion. Like, fits can't be reinforced. When you punish her for something, it can't be, it can't trigger another fit that she doesn't get punished for, right? It can
yeah,
cascade out pretty quick, but yeah, I mean, it's just going to be it's just reinforcement, right? This is psychology, you know, the positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement stuff.
yeah,
Reward her for when she's doing well, but at the same time, I struggled with that. I still struggle with this, when I talk to folks as well, and not just it comes down to work and everything else, but um, positive reinforcement's great, but I'm also not big on rewarding them for what they should be doing anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Brock doesn't get an allowance for taking care of the lawn, and like he does all the mowing and taking the garbage out and making sure his room's clean. Like I'm not paying you for that. Like it's what you're supposed to do. Like I'm not
Yeah.
going to reinforce. Now if there's above and beyond, or he has a certain long stretch, or he comes and does all kinds of extra stuff, I'll be like, hey, let's go grab dinner somewhere or something like that. Same thing with her, right? If she's just doing what she's expected to do, it shouldn't be like, oh, let's get ice cream and throw a party, right? It's
Yeah.
just no, that's what's expected. Because otherwise, I think it creates like too much of like a bipolar situation. I don't mean that in like the
Right.
bipolar,
Yeah.
but a way of like either things are really awesome or it's punishment. There needs to be like this. This is the normal way we function here.
Yeah.
If you go above and beyond and you help mommy clean up the dishes and without being asked, and you do this or you help out with cooking, and hey, maybe we'll go get ice cream later, and you can reward, and those things I think are better to be like the reward isn't put out there out front. It's like you did this thing, therefore now we're just going to let you know. Oh, by the way, we're going to do this extra thing. But if she takes her own plate to the sink, well, I'm not rewarding you for that. You ought to take your own plate to the sink.
Yeah.
It's not our job to cater after you. But
That makes sense.
anyway, we'll keep chatting about it on a daily basis, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I'll
And
keep you updated.
figure out.
I'll keep the
Um,
thicket updated. We'll have another podcast next week when I'm about to pull my fucking hair out.
yeah, see how this goes. Yeah, I'm just setting you up for another awesome podcast. That's all. So
We'll
yeah,
make this
so
we'll make this a
similar.
series, raising a 3-year-old.
Yeah, yeah. So similar to that, I know this podcast is probably just going to be about parenting now, which is fun. Parenting
It's
and
like
coaching because they're the same thing.
yeah.
Uh,
We'll
and
have
then we'll
another
just
one
do
about
another one
hunting.
right after.
Yeah.
We'll go change our shirts and jump back on and do another one on hunting. Act like it's tomorrow. No, the so baseball, Nighthawks, right?
Yeah.
Get the team back together. It was awesome. We go up and play. And I know I'd mentioned a couple things to you. I didn't give you the details of what happened, but so the first day, so this is a 2-day tournament, and the first day gets rained out. We drive the whole way up there. We drive 2 hours up. Day gets rained out. We could go into that about how they handled the field, but that's a whole other conversation. Um,
Yeah.
but we have a kid on our team, had 10 kids, just 10, one extra. We go up there for Sunday, and we're playing hour long drop dead games because they were just going to go right into win or go home. They were going to go into single elimination, but there were 5 teams, and so they decided to do drop dead games an hour long. And I thought I was going to hate that format. And I mean, like, if you win the coin toss, you're definitely taken away. You want that first at bat because at an hour, it doesn't matter if it's in the middle of an at bat. It doesn't matter what's going on. It's like a college football game. Over, score.
It's like
No end
timed.
of the last inning. Yeah, no end of the last inning. Nothing like that. Just whatever it is. I thought I was going to hate it. I loved it. I loved it. We had a kid. We're up by 1 run. Or no, I'm sorry. We're tied. We're tied. And they go back out, and we're rushing. We're not slow playing it or anything. I don't want to be that guy, right? I'm not going to
Right.
be that
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
So we're going out into the field. There's 90 seconds left in this game, and I'm like, and I told my pitcher, I said, one warm up and we're batting. We're going to play ball. We're going to play ball, right? But I'm also saying that because I'm like, we don't want to look like this, but I'm also thinking like, and I had told the kids, if this is a situation we run into, don't give them anything to hit. Like, don't pitch them out every time, but don't throw a meatball down the middle of the plate.
Yeah. Right.
He throws the first ball right down the middle, and this kid buries it to the left field fence. And I'm like, oh my God. There's less than a minute now left in this game. The kid's standing on second. Our kid gets the ball. Kid takes off for third. I told him, I said, just pitch it, right? Just pitch it. Thank goodness it was a ball and the kid didn't hit it. The next kid didn't hit it. This kid's now standing on third. I didn't want him to throw it to third because if it's an overthrow, the game's over and we lose.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there with 45 seconds left. And the only thing that can happen is we can lose. We're tied right now. We're in the field. There's no way we're batting again, obviously. right?
Yeah.
The only thing that can happen is we can lose. So I'm telling him like, pitch him out, pitch him out. So I'm trying to get him, I'm trying to get the pitcher to pitch out into the other batter's box because this kid's going to try to steal home. My pitcher is standing on first base or standing on the mound after the first pitch, and this is before I tell him to pitch him out. He's got his back to home plate, and he's like looking down at his glove, like facing second base, with this kid on third who has to steal home to win the game. And there's no reason not to, right? There's
Yeah.
no reason to not try to get in a
Yeah,
rundown or
you got to
whatever.
try.
I'm flipping out, and I don't flip out in the dugout. I was flipping out. I'm like, turn around. Like I'm completely losing my mind because he wasn't like in the game, right? And then I got him the pitch and I said, pitch it out. And then the kid tried to steal because had the kid tried to steal early enough and you're pitching out, you're going away. It was a right-handed batter. He might have been able
Yeah.
to get in, but it was new for all the teams, but it was wild, dude. Like the strategy was completely different. How
Oh
you
yeah.
approached your pitching, everything was different. Everything was different. Everything was upbeat. Anyway, so we ultimately ended up playing 5 games in one day, which was
Jesus.
a lot. And you only
Yeah.
got 9 kids. Like sorry, we had 10 kids. And you got a kid pitching, like Brock pitched in 3 straight games. They had a limit of 18 outs for a kid. No, I'm sorry, 12 outs for a kid. You couldn't get more than 12 outs, so you could pitch 4 innings. Now Brock pitched like 30 pitches, or no, I'm sorry, he pitched like 20 pitches, then he pitched like 30 pitches, and then he pitched like 35. So I kept him under 100, made sure he was loose. Same with the other kids who pitched multiple times. I wasn't throwing a kid over 100, but they were
Yeah.
only going by outs. So anyway, we're 3 games in to the day. We didn't know how deep we were going to go. We just got done with our pool play, and now it's going to hour-and-a-half games that are also drop dead for the playoffs. I didn't like that they were drop dead because that's a playoff game. Like you should make sure everybody gets
Yeah.
equal bats. Like I
Yeah.
had an issue with that. But for pool play moving forward, any tournament I'd ever have, I'd have drop dead games. It was awesome. I'd have 1 hour drop dead games. It was spectacular. But anyway, we're all sitting around, and we have a kid on the team who was on our team a couple years ago when you were helping me coach. You know who he is. I won't say names, but he's a little different. He's a nice kid, comes from a great, great family, but when he goes for attention, he doesn't know how to do it. He's awkward when he tries to get friends. Um, he just he does things to get attention that might hurt other people because he might get some people to laugh and then those people will be friends with him. Like he's just kind of awkward about how he goes about getting friends, right? So he's sitting there, and one of our kids is um, a wrestler, like like, and he's huge. So he's 13 years old. Um, he's 5'9", 168, and he's a
Jesus.
wrestler. And he's a big dude. Like he's just squared off. He just lifts all the time, right? So this kid's sitting there, the wrestler's sitting there, different kids, right? Not he's not the awkward one. That he's not the kid who struggles to make friends, I should say.
Yeah.
And the wrestler is sitting there with his girlfriend next to him, this beautiful young girl, 13, 14 years old, and his sister sitting there. She's, I want to say 10. The kid who struggles to make friends properly, he has a lot of friends, but he just struggles to make them properly. And then you end up with a different crowd anyway, a collection of kids that you don't necessarily want, all the time. But on the team, everybody's good. Everybody's good. Well, he comes over and he starts talking, and he heads himself down this path. And the parent comes up to me, the wrestler's parent comes up to me afterwards, and he says, "Hey, this happened." And here this kid walks up to the wrestler, and as he's talking to him, he insults his girlfriend. And I mean, calling her ugly, you got a big forehead, blah blah blah. And meanwhile, this girl's gorgeous, and the kid who's saying it is not. He doesn't have a girlfriend, like he's just saying things, and it does
Yeah.
not excuse it, right? It does not excuse it by any stretch. But he's insulting this girl right in front of the wrestler kid, and then the little girl says, his little sister says something, and he called her a name that I would not even say on this podcast, even though I swear on this podcast. Like he says this to a 10-year-old girl. Oh, you're a this. One of the parents hears this and says, "Hey, you can't talk to people that way." And this 13-year-old kid looks at him and goes, "You're not my dad." So I come over and I hear about this, and I walk over to the kid and I'm like, "Did you just have a conversation with these people?" And he says, "Yes." And you see his eyes get real big. And I'm like, "You need to tell me everything you said." And I said, "Remember," and he hesitated. And I said, "Remember, I already know. So make sure it's accurate." And I made him say it out loud. And I was like, "Get that fucking jersey off right now. Take it off right now. You're never wearing it. Like, just take it off. Take it off. You're done, you know." And no, let me take this back. First, I talked to that kid's dad. I talked to his dad first. I said, "This is what's going on. This is what I'm going to do." And
Yeah.
he was like, "Good, good." He goes, "If you got to do more than that, do more than that." Right? He's
Good.
like, "Do whatever you need to do," you know. Um, and then, and then I actually got both of the dads together and said, "Look, I know this is what happened. I want this dad to hear." So I had the wrestler's dad, talk to this kid's dad, together while I was there, and to verify and who heard what parents heard what, so we knew it was validated and all that. And then I told him to get that jersey off, and I was like, "Dude, we'll play with 9." And I said, "I'll play with 7. Like, I don't care. I'll
Yeah.
kick kids off the team like crazy."
Yeah.
And his parents were, they took him aside and lit him up. And then they came over. They're like, "What do you want us to do?" They said, "If you want him to stay and sit out here in the outfield somewhere by himself and stay for the rest of the day." And I said, "Well, I would normally do that, but we're 2 hours away from your home and it's a Sunday and it's a nice day. Like, what do you want to do?" And they said, "Well, we have another thing going on the other end of the city, actually like 3 hours away, but we could make it to that and we could drop him off, whatever on the way back through." And I was like, go then, go enjoy your family time. Like,
Yeah.
don't spend any more time on this, with this. He doesn't deserve it. But oh man, I was hot. I was hot. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just sitting there like, of course I didn't touch the kid, but I'm like, how can you say, like,
Yeah.
we don't run things like that around here, right? But yeah, but I will say the interesting part about that to me was afterwards, I wrote his dad and I wrote a thing for him to show the son, the kid that. Well, first of all, I told the wrestler. I said the wrestler didn't do. He said he wanted to hit him, but he didn't do it because he didn't want to get kicked off the team. And I said I would have given you a game ball. Right, I'm not gonna kick you off the team for
For
sticking up for
standing
your
up.
girlfriend and
Yeah.
sticking up for your sister
That's right.
when
Yeah.
somebody's saying these kinds of things, like, and then I made it clear to him. I said, "Hey, while you're still 13 and 14 years old, if that kind of stuff happens, like, do what you need to do. You're not going to be able to do that once you turn 18, but do what you need to do and,
Yeah.
stand up for yourself and don't ever worry about that." But I did write to the kid who said the things, and I had a conversation with his dad, and he said, he struggles to make friends and he doesn't know how to do it right, so he does things to get attention. He says words that have not been appropriate for a very long time, but he says them all the time just to get a rise out of people. Like, he calls people ethnic slurs and things like that,
Mm.
like, just regularly, And so I wrote a thing back because I was mad. I was mad for a while, but I also made sure I handled it like a coach. And then afterwards, I decided, I wrote him and I said, this was addressed to the kid. I basically said, like, "Look, I'm not proud of it, but when I was in high school, I did some of those same things. I didn't I didn't throw ethnic slurs around, things like that, but there I made a lot of. I wasn't a popular kid in school. I wasn't a jock. I wasn't all that stuff, right? But I was a clown. I was a funny kid, and as that, to make friends, sometimes I built myself up by tearing other people down, and so I get it, you know. And I said I'm not proud of it by any stretch, and I know you wouldn't know this, but I don't think so anyway. But when Facebook first got popular, and then I don't know, probably like like at its peak or whatever, I started writing people you find all your old classmates on there, right? And I
Yeah.
started finding people. I was a small school, and I started finding people and apologizing to them for how I treated them in high school. And a lot of those people told me to fuck off. Like they didn't believe me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah.
Like,
You
dude, you
weren't
messed with
sincere.
me for 3 years. Yeah, you fucked with me for 3 years. Now you're on here, like on this chat thing, telling me, this and that. Like, no, you know, I didn't like school because of you, whatever. And I didn't even realize a lot of times, obviously I realized at some level because I was apologizing, right? But um, to hear some of the people or read some of the people saying like, no, I don't accept your apology. I was like, dude, that's, or, whoever it was, I was like, I totally get that. Like
Yeah.
you don't owe me an apology. You don't owe me forgiveness by any
Yeah.
stretch, Um, and I'd say it's about 50-50. 50% of the people will be like, no, I really appreciate you reaching out. But even they're probably like, fucking asshole. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they probably said the right thing. So I'd say maybe only 10 or 20% really actually like see me differently. But I got to own that. Right. And
Yeah.
but what was interesting was I was able to talk to this kid about that and say like, dude, I've been there, not in the same way you've done it necessarily, but I kind of get it. Like I used to build myself up by tearing people down,
Yeah.
and I was immature. It was not the right thing to do. I'm not proud of it by any stretch, but I'm here to tell you there's other ways, and I'm here to help you in those other ways. And if you ever want to talk, and like, I told him, I said, you get your stuff squared away. I said, there's a spot for you on this team. I'm not going to kick him off forever if he's going to come back. I said, you're going to have to work your way back on, and it's not about baseball. None of that has to do with anything with baseball. He's a decent baseball player. Um, you have to work your way back on with other things. There's things you got to make right, and it has to be truly right, not just to get back on the team. It's got to be, because you've made full changes and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. To me, that's the after all that and how horrible the situation was, it was one of my like. It's a moment of coaching I'll never like forget. You know what I'm saying? Because it
Yeah.
was like I got to take something that was from the Wayback Machine with me and get to have a kid who's struggling. Yes, he was a complete asshole that day, and um, there's absolutely no excuse for it. His parents said there's no excuse for it. He said all the right things that day, at least of that. Um, but to be able to take that and because we always say it's about so much more than baseball, right?
Yeah.
Um, it was pretty cool. So it's very unfortunate it happened. Terrible, terrible that it happened. But it was nice to be able to go in and be, and to have a relationship with those kids where I didn't have to just throw them off and fuck you, get out. You're never coming back, And that's how I felt at first, but I didn't say that to him. I said, take it off. You're done. It's the only tournament we were doing that this year anyway, so that made it easy. But just to not make a commitment to him coming back. But um, I don't know, man. That's why coaching's the best. I just love it. I absolutely just love it. I
I do
I,
miss it.
I
I
think.
think you handled that well, obviously too. I mean, I don't know other way you would have been able to do that. Obviously, you had to do that. So
Oh yeah, there was no way because I was like, my other option that came through my head was, well, if you fight the wrestler, you can stay. But he wouldn't have done that. He's given up like 55 pounds, and plus, I kickboxed and fought and everything when I was in college, and I loved fighting. But when I saw the kids with the cauliflower ears, I was like, nope, I'm
yeah,
I'm I'm good,
no,
man.
I'm all right.
Let me move out of your way. Do you want a beer? Like, what do you want? I don't need turned into a pretzel. I know my
Yeah,
limitations.
right.
So anyway,
I miss coaching. I'm actually my brother the other day. Well, the only team I had coached was with you, I guess, and I was kind of the assistant coach. But I had fun with it. I learned a lot.
yeah,
Um, my brother the other day, I guess his kid is moving up to. Well, my nephew is moving up to what is he going to be 11 and 12 next year? So 12U next
yeah.
year.
You in? You coaching?
Yeah, he volunteered me
Oh, awesome.
because
Awesome. No, you're
I
a good
guess
coach now.
because I guess
You're a good coach.
the coach this year, his kid is staying at the 11U or whatever,
Yeah.
10U or
Yeah.
whatever. So he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
I'm coaching this," and then he's like, "Do you want to coach next year?" My brother, he's a basketball player, which he kind of knows baseball. I mean, he's a sports guy,
Right,
so
right, right,
he knows,
right.
but he doesn't. He's like, you know more about baseball than I do. He's like, you're coaching next year, and I was like, well, if I have time, he's like, you'll have time. I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Take those kids to the Little League World Series, man. Bring them
yeah.
out. Bring them out.
So
Bring them out.
so I might need to have you come down to make a guest appearance and help me.
Oh yeah, I'll come down. I'll travel anywhere to coach kids. I love that.
It would be fun
So
to
I know we're.
have you down for a tournament if we got into a tournament or something to help
Oh, that'd
coach.
be
That would be
great, dude. I'll
yeah.
bring a team out.
Yeah, there you go.
Bring a
I
Pennsylvania
thought
team
of,
out to
so
Missouri, dude. We would absolutely do that.
every year they have it's like I don't know if Pennsylvania does it, but they have what they call the Show Me Games. It's basically the
Yeah.
Olympics, but they have
Right, right,
like
right.
there's all kinds of sports. I used to play in the 18 over team for 3 or 4 years when I was like 25, but they have youth kit like 12U teams all the way down to like 8U, but it's
Oh,
like
that'd
a
be
weekend.
awesome.
It's a weekend long tournament. They do the pool play, and then they do like I think they start Thursday, and they do Thursday and Friday pool play, and then Saturday and Sunday's tournament. So it's like a 4 day
Oh, that'd be
thing.
awesome.
It is fun, but the bad thing is, it's like I think it's actually right now, which it's supposed to be 102 degrees this
Yeah,
this
yeah. Our kids would
weekend.
die.
So
Pennsylvania kids would just die. Like they
yeah,
wouldn't even know.
so
They'd be like, "I'm
'cause
not
I know
playing."
when I played on the 18 over team when I was 25, and it's always like the second or third weekend of August, which is usually the hottest weekend of the year,
Yeah, yeah,
and I just remember it being like 102 degrees the whole freaking weekend, and you're just like
yeah.
dead.
Well, like even when we got down, we played 5 games that day in the tournament I was just telling you about. We were tied going into like 15 minutes left, and the other team came up, and we were just. I was exhausted. The kids were exhausted. I can't even imagine how tired they were,
Yeah,
and we were just out of arms too. We still had arms to finish that game, but I was like, if we win this game, like we don't have anyone. Like we
yeah,
we burn our 5 games in one day. That's insane. But
it's a lot.
I
Yeah,
know we're almost to the hour here, so this is just going to be a parenting and a coaching conversation. But dude, I got to catch you up. So obviously Hunter, was big soccer player, like all
hmm,
county, all everything, whatever. And Nolan, same way. Well, Brock has, he loves basketball. Baseball is number one sport. Loves basketball though behind it. Works hard at them. He's coachable. He listens. Not like some kids are coachable. Like he still has his own ideas about what he wants to do. And like shortstop, for example, I also have trouble getting to the dive. He does a bend at the waist kind of. He doesn't even drop his knees, right? He just kind of it reduces his range and things like
yeah.
that. Just some things like that that have always irked me. Well, he decided a few weeks ago, and he was going to spend a week down in Kentucky with Hunter and Nolan at med school, and he's like, I think I want to play soccer this year. And now after all the soccer we've been through, I'm like, oh God, like more soccer, right? Like, I do love, I actually really do love soccer. I played it, I played a lot of it, and obviously we loved it when Hunter played. And I'm like, okay, let's see how it goes, whatever. Well, he goes down there and they kicked the ball at the net at him a couple times, and we go down there and they'd only had like one session or whatever, and we go down. And he says, hey, let's go to the field, and they go, and that kid steps into that net, and I don't know if you had an opportunity yet in your life, but when kids are doing all kinds of different things and then they find that one thing that is like, oh my God, you were built for this. Not just built for it, but like your attitude is right, your approach is right, you're the most coachable kid I've ever seen. And dude, he is a monster in there.
Oh,
He is
really?
insane. He's quick. No, well, I've got big hands. I got 9.5 inch hands, right? 9 3/4 inch hands, because I know my hands. So in case I need to measure something, I know. Oh, that's about 10 inches, right? His hands. He still
That's
weighs
a good.
125 pounds. Oh, you don't do that?
No,
Oh, I know
that's a
like
good.
how long
That's a
my
good
thumb
tip, though.
is. Yeah, I know how long my thumb is. I know how long my pinky is. How long my hand spread is. Like all that stuff. How wide my hand is this way. Like in case I need to measure something at like Home Depot, I'm like, oh, it's that wide. But his hands. He weighs 125 pounds still, even though he's been lifting like crazy. But he has 10 inch hands, and he's almost grown out of his size 12 shoes and still at 125 pounds. So he still looks like a gnome. Like he still has like big hands, big feet, and still pretty lean. But dude, he's like a vacuum cleaner. And you hit it low off to the side, he's on the ground, like diving. I'm like, where's he dive spin all this time? And he's training with the local high school senior goalkeeper, and
Okay.
he's only been there twice, and he's like stopping at least as many shots as that kid is, like if not. And he's in 8th grade. Like he's
Jeez.
and the coaches already are like, so varsity keeper next year, right? You're going to keep playing, right? Like you're going to be our keeper next year, right? He's like, I've only been doing this for 3 days, and they're like, what? Like they're thinking he's played like his entire life, or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just really cool to see a kid just click into something. And he's still going to play hoops. He's still going to play baseball. He still loves all those things. He's
Yeah.
going to do all those things. But and to see him, he comes home from practice now, and he's practicing like now like 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, and he's coming back and he's singing and dancing around the house, and just like it's just changed. It's not like he was a depressed kid, he's a happy kid, but
Right.
it's just this week at least he's just been cloud nine, dude, cloud nine,
That's awesome.
because it's like he's found his thing, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
back to soccer. So, but
That's
yeah, more
awesome.
to
Yeah.
come on that.
Yeah. When they
So
just click, I can imagine you seeing like, this is it. This is the thing
yeah,
right here.
yeah,
This is it.
yeah, it's wild. It's wild. So
That's
hopefully
kind of
your
way.
daughter's thing isn't like chewing through things, or like,
No, she's gonna
the
be.
human
She's
beaver.
she's gonna be the human beaver. She'll be in the circus.
Yeah. Yeah. Have her grow a mustache out and chew through
Give me
logs or something.
give me that granite countertop. I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. Pay a
No,
lot of money
that's
for that, actually.
my niece. She's gonna be. She's actually she's younger than my nephew, but she's going to be better at sports than he is
Right.
until
Right.
he grows. I think he's going to be good at basketball, but he's just so it's hard to put how he's just not grown into his body yet. I mean, he's only 10,
Right. Right. Right.
11, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
and he's like
Right.
very uncoordinated. And my brother was the same way, but when he finally got, hit puberty and grew, because my brother,
Right.
you met my brother, right? Yeah, we played
Yeah.
golf with him. He's like
Yeah.
6'6"
Yeah.
and 220 pounds or whatever. And when he was in high school, he was always a scrawny little kid. And then when he grew into his body, he got really good at
Yeah.
basketball and got coachable and everything. So he
Right.
didn't really have a sport until high school. So I think that's the way my nephew's going to be. But my niece, she's like, she can hit a softball a mile, and
Right.
she plays goalkeeper too. She's 9, I think, and she plays
Yeah.
goalkeeper in soccer too. And she's just like a wall, and she's
Yeah.
diving after balls.
Just
She gets hit in
crazy.
the face, and then she gets stand back up, and she keeps
Yeah.
wanting more. Like, and
Yeah.
she's coachable, and she just don't give a shit,
Yeah.
and she'll
And I
sacrifice her
think
body.
I told you, like, Hunter's best sport was not soccer. Her best sport was baseball, not softball. Her best sport was
Oh yeah,
baseball. She was
yeah,
amazing at baseball, but they mismanaged how they brought the kids up through. She got bored out of her gourd. They had kid pitch at like age 7, so everyone in the field was like, "This is the most horrible sport ever," and a bunch of kids quit. And she was one. She willed herself to be great at soccer, and she loves the sport. Don't get me wrong; she's very, very, very good at it. But if I had to pick the one that was like her natural sport, the one where she just walked out and was like better than everyone else in the area on at that thing, or like at least could compete with them, it was going to be baseball.
hmm
And I think the junior high team, actually the varsity team was talking to her when she was in high school, like, hey, you ought to come out, like come play baseball. But she hated the sport by then. They ran her out
yeah.
early, but yeah, it's super super awesome to see that. And the last thing I'll say, I know we're almost at an hour here. We want to try to keep it under, but second kids, especially when they're tight like that, like within like 3 years of each other, man, like everyone I know who has like two boys or a boy and a girl, that second kid, they're so good at sports because they just get beat on by their older sibling the whole time. They're playing up the
Makes
whole
sense.
time. They're playing up against stronger competition at home all the time. As long as kids are
Yeah,
playing at home, which unfortunately doesn't happen as much as it used to. But
yeah.
anyway, all right, man. Well, we're at 58 minutes, so
Yeah, let's wrap
we're
this up. What do we I got a couple, we'll just hit on some things that I got coming up. I got two ideas for videos coming up on the YouTube channel
yeah,
if I can get it done. One, I'm gonna rent out a photo studio and do a couple like a bow reveal video because I got a new
yeah,
bow and I'm all excited about it this year. So I'm gonna do
awesome,
that. We're actually heading up to camp this weekend and I'm gonna do a video with all that. The cameras, I know we're doing we're doing parenting and stuff right now, but my cameras on the mineral licks right now have gone like pretty much silent.
Yeah.
Haven't got anything. All the deer have transitioned probably to food, and they're going to be hitting acorns and scrapes now. So I'm going to do that
Yeah.
this weekend and move the
Well,
cameras around.
we'll do another podcast and actually talk about hunting here
Yeah.
on the next one.
Yep.
So, do
So
that soon.
look for that. Follow us on Twitter, Corn Thicket at Corn Thicket, and you made a TikTok account
Yeah,
too.
we got TikTok. We got all kinds of things now. Throwing all
So
kinds of
we're
garbage up there.
so we're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Follow us on there. Corn Thicket Podcast presented by Realtree. You got anything else?
I'm good.
Thanks for hanging out. See you next time.
Peace.
The Corn Thicket Podcast with Kyle and Howie, presented by Realtree.